want to ask you more about security as someone from law
Yeah.
enforcement, because there have been a lot of questions about, because you're talking about kind of intelligence, finding these things out ahead of time. But what about security in terms of just kind of the event itself, like the physical buildings? How
Yeah.
come we aren't, looking out for rooftop situations, things where, someone could be located? I understand that makes it very, very expensive. These are private citizens. I mean, Charlie Kirk is really big, but a lot of people would say, like,
Right.
I don't know if I can be a conservative speaker and like pay for private security and all of this stuff. I know he did have security, but there's, different levels. There's like body man or someone who's near you, kind of in case somebody rushes you, versus there's kind of involved detail of an entire building. And this is, of course, a
Right.
college campus where I think my understanding is the different roofs of different buildings were connected. It wasn't
Mhm.
like they were just in an auditorium or one space. So, do you think this kind of means they can't do outdoor events? Does this mean that they need to have security that is able to be very, very detailed? Or what's kind of your expertise perspective on that?
It's an outstanding question, and I'm really glad you asked. Right, so let's take two situations. Butler, Pennsylvania, President Trump. That was an abysmal, egregious failure by the Secret Service. Right, there should have been the first thing you do. This goes back to Teddy Roosevelt when he was shot right after the turn of the last century. The Secret Service then started securing the high ground of buildings. They understood that needed to be their primary mission. So Butler was an abysmal security failure. This was different. This is a college campus. This is not a head of state. This is not a public official. Yeah, he's a high profile guy, but if Tom Cruise came to a campus, there wouldn't be snipers on the roofs, right? Because you're expecting an unruly crowd, potentially a violent crowd. Charlie's personal detail did a great job. You can see these guys, they're fit. They're clearly former military and law enforcement. They're positioned properly. You can tell by the outlines of their shirt, they're gunned up. I saw in one video, it looked like they had tourniquets, blowout kits. So they were really ready for anything that might have come that way, but nobody thought about a sniper. So that's the principals, security detail and their threat assessment. Now you've got the political and PR implications of snipers aiming their rifles at a bunch of college kids listening to a free speech debate. And so that in and of itself, I don't know many schools that would allow it. Danielle, many states have baked into legislation that only law enforcement can carry on campuses or others designated. So Charlie's security would have been given a dispensation to be armed. But I don't know of many campuses, short of a president, a governor, a high profile mayor, like when Rudy Giuliani was mayor post 9/11. And even earlier than that, because of the mob threats, he would get that kind of security. But it doesn't surprise me that Charlie didn't get it. I don't think we're going to see conservative speakers get that level of security because it's expensive and because it just presents an optic that many colleges and universities won't want. I don't agree with it, but that is what it is. So I've told my friends, that the people like the Dave Rubins of the world, like the Carol Markowitzes, the Bucks, if you're going to do these speaking events, do them indoors because you can secure an indoor venue very effectively. And I hate, let me tell you, Danielle, I hate that because it sounds like surrender, but until we can figure out better means of surveillance, and maybe it could be as simple as a cheap drone going up. Every one of these people just hires a drone operator for a few $100s for the day. They send the drone up just to watch the rooftops. That might be the answer, but until we get an answer, indoor venues are a lot easier to secure, much easier to secure. And when you have limited resources and you're not a law enforcement agency or a public official, it's going to be very difficult to secure these outdoor venues in any effective way. And the larger the venue, the more difficult it is. So I would say short term, do them indoors, and then midterm, let's figure out a solution. I keep hearing drones from some very from people I respect, tier one special operators, former Secret Service, former U.S. Marshals who did judicial security. So I like the drone idea, but we need to figure out a protocol.